opinion paragraph, and it states, the accompanying consolidated financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the municipality as at December 31st, 2022, and its consolidated results of operations, its consolidated change in net financial assets, and its consolidated cash flow for the year then ended, in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. So next slide, please. Next slide. Oh, sorry. Okay. This slide just shows the two main areas we will be going over today. Pages 27. Sorry, I missed my fault. Okay. So we're going over the statement of financial position and the statement of operations. This slide shows a 3-year comparison of the financial assets presented on your statement of financial position in the financial statement package. And you'll notice that overall, the municipality is continuing to build its financial asset base year over year. In reviewing this trend, the municipality has increased its asset base by over 12.7 million, or 14.5% compared with 2020. As you can see, the main difference is in cash and temporary investments. Increases in cash are explained on page 30 of your agenda package in the cash flow statement. So you will see that the increase in cash balance is mainly as a result of the annual surplus generated in the year and offset by purchases in tangible capital assets and repayment of long-term debt. Next slide, please. This slide shows the 3-year comparison of financial liabilities presented on your statements of financial position, and you will notice that overall the financial liabilities have remained relatively consistent over the 3-year term, with a slight increase this year of 2.7 million. Next slide. Thank you. This slide shows the trend in long-term debt for the county over the last 5 years. As you can see, it has decreased by nearly 1.48 million, or 4.9% in the current year. Next slide, please. This slide shows the expected principal repayments on the county's existing debt. Another 14.01 million of principal is expected to be paid off between 2023 and 2027. Details of the long-term debt can be found in note 7 of the financial statements on pages 35 and 36. The slide shows the increase over the last 3 years of the municipality's accumulated surplus and tangible capital assets. At the end of 2022, the municipality had 299.8 million of tangible capital assets and over 332 million in accumulated surplus. Details of the breakdown of the municipality's tangible capital assets can be found in Schedule 1 of the statements on pages 48 to 51. Details of the municipality's accumulated surplus can be found in Schedule 2 in the statements just after the capital assets on page 52. So this slide shows the increase in reserves and reserve funds over the last 5 years, an increase of 36.1 million. In the current year, approximately 6.13 million was added to the reserve and reserve funds. Okay, so this shows a comparison of budgeted revenue to actual. Actual revenues were 13 million, or 5.71% higher than budget. The reasoning behind the increases relates to the increase seen in provincial government transfers during the year. Increases in provincial government transfers come from additional funding flowed to the municipality, such as extra EDU funding, homes for the aged one-time funding, social services relief funding, and increased social services caseloads. So the next slide shows the pie format. where your revenues come from. Of note, over 48% are from provincial government transfers, 36% from taxation revenue, and almost 11% from user charges. So this shows a comparison of budgeted expenses by function to actual. Actual expenses were $7.8 million, or 3.58% higher than budget. The next slide just shows the expenses on an object basis, which is also can be seen in note 11 of the financial statements on page 37. Overall, most of the cost groupings have remained relatively consistent when compared with prior year, with the exception of salaries, wages, and benefits, and contributions to other organizations. So salary, wages, and benefits have increased when compared with prior year, mainly as a result of a budgeted payroll increase of 6%. Contributions to other organizations have increased due to increase in Ontario Works caseloads. This slide shows in pie format a breakdown of expenses. Of note, over 42% is salaries, wages, and benefits, over 29% on materials, and over 14% on contributions to other organizations. Okay, so other highlights. Note 8 on page 36 talks about the OMERS pension plan, and as you can see, the amount contributed to OMERS increased this year to $5.97 million. Note 18 to the statements on page 44 details the municipality's guarantee of the Southwestern Integrated Fiber Technology Inc., or SWIFT, the credit facility in the amount of $2.1 million. Note 19 to the statements on page 45 has various commitments and agreements of the municipality with various entities for rentals, maintenance of roads, construction projects, and grants. Okay, next slide, please.
I've lost my upload to this.
Okay. Okay, other financial statements, the trust funds for the residents' comfort trust statements, which are reported in a separate statements from the main corporation of the County of Lambton financial statements, received an unqualified audit report and had total assets and total fund balances of $83,178. The trust fund numbers are not included in the county statements, which is why they are a separate statement. So, if there's any questions, if not, I will turn it back to Pete to discuss the final report to those charged with governance.
Thanks, Gail. So each year we're required to issue a final report to those charged with governance, which is you as the Audit Committee. It's a follow-up to our planning report, which was provided to you before the audit started. A copy of the report's in your agenda package starting at page 65. I'm just going to go over a couple of the key points that we need to discuss with you. So we need to disclose any changes in materiality from our planning letter. So as you can see, materiality remained at $4.5 million throughout the audit. We're also not aware of any fraud affecting the municipality. We're required to update our independence since the date of the last letter, which was April 3rd, 2023. So we can confirm that we're still independent with respect to the county as of today's date. And we also need to disclose the net effect of any unadjusted misstatements that we found. And we're pleased to note that we did not note any unadjusted misstatements this year in the audit. The management representation letter I mentioned, we provided that to Larry and Lori, and it summarizes the representations that we've requested from management during the audit. So we need to sign and return before we can release. And a copy is included at the end of the final report to those charged with governance. And the last thing we have is our management letter, which is also in your package starting on page 82. So the points are on page 84, which is Appendix 1. So I'll just briefly highlight the points. So we had 4 points regarding the nursing homes and 5 regarding the IT environment. although one of those IT ones I think will be removed after further discussions between our IT staff and the county IT staff on Friday. So the first point noted relating to the nursing homes was a deposit receipt issued to a resident and a copy was not kept on file. So this was similar to last year, and it's just to do with the regulations of the Long-Term Care Act. The second point relates to an expenditure amount that was paid that was in excess of the amount in the residency agreement. And third point was an incomplete completion of the residency agreement. And then the last points were relating to powers of attorney. One was incomplete. And then in two cases, there was no power of attorney on file. The IT environment points detail user access provisioning. So this is the one that's going to be removed as additional evidence was brought forth from your IT department to our staff that did the IT work. There's issues with the revocation policies regarding terminated staff. There's a generic ID access point in there, privileged access controls, and then a password complexity for some of the programs. So that's all we had. We'll take any questions now, and I'll stop sharing my screen.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. I'm looking to the committee if there are any questions. That'll be a good time. Seems like the report was very thorough. So I'm seeing no questions, which is a good thing. Let's go back over to my agenda here and make sure we got everything. Okay. So if there's nothing from the committee, would I... Excuse me. Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Barnes, if there is anything further from your team, now would be a good time.
Nope, that's all we had.
Okay, great. So we're just going to pause for a moment here while management exits the room.